I think that human beings develop very strong bonds with the whales. It's left to be determined whether the whales are in fact bonding back. They smelled a rat when they heard the spin, I think, coming out of SeaWorld after the death. A lot of them just couldn't really put that past to bed. They couldn't find closure with having worked at SeaWorld if they didn't somehow advocate for the whales they feel they left behind. It was almost a confessional when they spoke in the film.
Rico, I spoke with the director of the highly anticipated and extremely controversial new movie Blackfish about former SeaWorld trainers who appeared in her film reacting to the death of SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancheau. SeaWorld disputes what Blackfish says about its trainers and training, saying, quote, the film fails to mention SeaWorld's commitment to the safety of its team members and guests and to the care and welfare of its animals, as demonstrated by the company's continual refinement and improvement to its killer whale facilities, equipment, and procedures, both before and after the death of Dawn Brancheau. Mark your calendar for the premiere of Blackfish on CNN this Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Check out this clip.
They live in these big families, and they have lifespans very similar to human lifespans. The females can live to about 100, maybe more, males to about 50 or 60. But the adult offspring never leave their mother's side. Each community has a completely different set of behaviors. Each has a complete repertoire of vocalizations with no overlap. You could call them languages. The scientific community is reluctant to say any other animal but humans uses languages, but there's every indication that they use languages.
The movie talks about killer whales in captivity, but there are so many different animals living in confinement. No secret here. Rico knows this. I'm an animal rights advocate, and let me tell you, there are lots of us out there. I talked to celebrities like TV star Wendy Williams about why she is standing up for animals and how her views are evolving. We are here with Wendy Williams, who is one of the people who pops up on Google when you talk about famous animal lovers.
Here's Wendy.
There is a sexy way to suggest to people to rethink the fur, and I like it, and I'm down. I'd rather go naked than wear fur.
Let me ask you this question. Can you describe your evolution? Here you have this incredible, I'd rather go naked than wear fur, and you look stunning, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes. How did you get there?
Well, I was asked by PETA. I hadn't worn fur in a few years. I admitted it when they asked me. We were purchasers of fur. There's certainly pictures of me all over the internet in fur. But, you know, as you get older, as you get wiser, as you get more thoughtful about the world around you and how you want it to be, that was one of my choices, not to swathe my body in a fur.
Now, do you see any kind of parallels in terms of your evolution of thought with the evolution of how we interact with wild animals as a species?
You can't have wild animals in captivity. They have to be wild. That's why their first name is Wild, as in wild animals.
How did you become an animal lover?
I've always loved animals. We don't have any, my husband's son and I. My husband's terribly allergic, but I grew up with rabbits and dogs, and you know, I have a healthy respect for animals.
And that's how you define it, a respect for animals.
Yes. You know, I'm not a purist, but I respect animals. You know, animals are, I think that they're better in the wild than they are in captivity.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thanks, Jane.
You were fabulous. One of the big controversies in the movie is the fight over how much space killer whales really need. Take a look at this video of orcas in the wild chasing a boat.
Where should we look? They're everywhere.
There's like 6 right there.
Oh, it just waved its tail.
15? You count 15? All right.
I think that.
This This video shows really how fast orcas are, how far they can go. The movie Blackfish claims killer whales can travel up to 100 miles a day. But SeaWorld says, quote, swimming that distance is not integral to a whale's health and well-being. It's likely foraging behavior, given the challenge of finding and killing as much as 300 pounds of prey every day. Killer whales in the wild, like any species, conserve energy and move only as much as necessary. Killer whales living in our parks are given all the food they require, end quote. We reached out to SeaWorld, as well as these other organizations seeking to get the other side. All declined to offer a guest to appear on camera to defend animal theme parks, zoos, and or aquariums. Straight out to neuroscientist Lori Moreno, who appeared in Blackfish. What do you think orcas need for space?
Orcas need a lot of space. And thank you for having me, Jane. Orcas need a tremendous amount of space. SeaWorld is absolutely incorrect in their assumption that orcas would rather rest than travel. No, they would rather travel, and by confining them to a tank, you're forcing them to rest. And that is torture for them. That is not something that they want.
Well, some people, including a former head trainer at SeaWorld, say that since the whales are breeding in captivity, that means they must be fine. Listen to what he said on Larry King Live.
People with emotions that try to put human emotions to these animals are going to say, yeah, they're pining for the wild. These animals are worried about, and all they worry about is if their needs are being met. And their needs are being met at these facilities. One way you can tell that is because they breed and they propagate in captivity. And the SeaWorld has had over 20 killer whales born at the SeaWorld parks, and successfully. That is one of the ways in which you can tell that everything is fine with the animals.
Lori, as a neuroscientist who has studied whales, do you agree with that claim?
Oh, absolutely not. It's ridiculous. The fact is that most orcas in captivity are born through artificial insemination. That has nothing to do with their welfare. So it's a completely misguided and misconceived idea.
Lori Moreno, neuroscientist, I want to thank you for joining us and lending your expertise.
Thank you.
I start for the cockpit.
One of the other passengers sees you,
Jane or John Doe.
tries to overpower you.
And we struggle for the gun.
When she's not hunting for human killers on CSI, TV star Georgia Fox is trying to save animals in captivity. You're going to see how she's helping to free lions in captivity. Next.
These animals live really long lives, some of them. And if they're lucky, they live shorter lives. Because a life in captivity for a wild marine mammal is a life of suffering and misery and loneliness and goes against every innate desire that they have.